could this be the turning point for the crypto market? Right now there's weak interest, but that could change. But we'll have to go through another rough patch first. Hey, welcome to Crypto Owl. You can tell making videos is tough at the moment. The market isn't offering much either. There are a few small news items which I usually cover in shorts. So feel free to check out Instagram, TikTok, and here on YouTube on the Shorts channel, or rather, in the Shorts, since there's only one channel. Anyway, there's not much else to say, except that the market is a bit weak, but we'll have to go through another dip. That means there will probably be even better buying opportunities in the next few days. Why? How come? And remember, the conference is coming up. I can also imagine that this will be a great event to connect and exchange ideas before the likely bull run. It's definitely exciting what's happening right now, but first we have to get through this phase. Let's start with the market update, and we can see that Bitcoin is currently showing some weakness. We can see here that in the last few days, since August 14th, so since mid-August, the trend has been downward, slight upward movements, previously also upward movements. But if we draw a line through all of this, as I keep saying, if we were to draw a line here and say, look, we were below the line, we were above the line, we were well above the line, and now we're back at the line. So actually, since June, it's been a sideways phase with breakouts to the upside triggered by bullish news or announcements. And this is what is commonly known as the summer slump. Sell in May and go away. May, look, 21st of May. You can just extend the line even further. 21st of May, that's where we climbed up to before. Then sell in May and go away. But remember, come back in September, that's where we are now. Yes, and in the meantime, there were a few more news items, but as you noticed, the whole thing was mainly driven by the ETFs. That's the case with Bitcoin now, but let's be honest, it's the same with other cryptocurrencies. And when it comes to other cryptocurrencies, for example, we're talking about Ethereum. And with Ethereum, the whole thing was different. It has risen enormously in recent months. And you could see here that Wall Street, I'll say more about this at the end of the video and go into it in more detail, has discovered Ethereum for itself. That's why it's very interesting to see what might still be coming. We can be curious, as I said, at the end of the video. Yes, and otherwise we see that the S&P 500 is also stalling a bit right now, although as you can see it has been running upwards since April. So you could really make a lot of money here, you have to say, but especially since about mid-August it's also been moving sideways. You have to keep in mind there are fewer candles here because it's closed on weekends. What's interesting right now is that gold is currently the winner compared to many others. Gold and also silver are showing momentum today on the 1st of September. So September is starting, and yes, is this now the end of the summer slump? Because sell in May, but remember, come back in September. And we have to be honest, September is still a difficult month. I'll say more about that in a moment. But we can see in the fear and greed index that we're back below neutral, or we're just barely in the neutral zone, but we'll probably fall below it if prices don't continue to rise here, or if search queries and so on don't pick up. So we're more in the fear zone here. That's what we're seeing right now. So on the line, we're exactly on the neutral line, but here we're already in the fear zone. Below 40 is fear. That's why we can be very curious to see how things will develop. If you now want to say that you'd like to get in and experience the possible boomerang, then check out the ZoomX platform. ZoomX has great trading volume, has listed many cryptocurrencies, and in our test, it was rated very well for both beginners and traders. They are a sponsor of the MoneyGram HS Formula 1 team, so there are also regular chances to win Formula 1 tickets here. Very cool. And right now there's a promotion going on, namely 50% cashback. Deposit $100, for example, and receive a $50 bonus. The whole thing runs until the 15th of September. Check it out, just sign up. You'll find the link in the video description, and of course, doing so supports the channel. Here you can trade as usual via market order or limit order, just like you're used to. All of this in USDT futures, and of course, for example, you can go long on Bitcoin with Bitcoin, and Forex trading is brand new here. And what do we have here? 1000x futures. Very risky trading, but of course you can also simply buy regular spot here, and there are lots of things to experience in the launchpad as well. ZoomX has a great app and is very beginner friendly. That's what our test showed. Test winner for beginners and traders, because these are the tips for newcomers or beginners, and ZoomX is in third place there, but the other two have very high fees for traders again. That means ZoomX comes out on top here. Good interface peer-to-peer in Germany and an average trading fee of 0.1%. That's for both maker and taker. Check it all out. You can also find more crypto exchanges in our exchange comparison. You'll find all the links for that in the video description or in the pinned comment. One topic could trigger the bull run in a big way, drive altcoins up massively, and that's these ETFs. Eric Balchunas, for example, was still talking about 72 crypto ETFs here on April 21st. A long list. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment. But now the latest numbers, James Seyffart has picked them out and pulled up the entire list. And this is also an image that's currently going viral on X, namely 92 crypto ETF and ETP applications. That's quite a lot, dear friends. And there are a huge number of cryptocurrencies included. You really have to be honest about that. There's actually an even better tweet where you can see it all nicely listed by crypto sale. As always, you'll find all the links in the video description, so let's go through them. XRP 22 ETFs, Solana 17 ETFs, Bitcoin 14 more ETFs, Ethereum another 11 ETFs, Litecoin 3, Polkadot 3, Cardano 3, Hedera 2 ETFs, then Dogecoin 2, Trump from the Trump token, the meme token, also 2 ETFs, AVAX currently only 1 left, some have been withdrawn. I've repeatedly reported that there are also ETF filings there. Some have been withdrawn, others have filed new ones. Also interesting to observe. SUI, Tron, SEI, Injective, Chainlink, Axelar, Pangu, Sub, Ondo, BNB, Melania with the laughing emoji and Bonk all have 1 ETF each. That's a really huge, crazy list. Here they're still talking about 90, but as I said, you can see the list here and of course you can take a look at it yourself. As I said, it's gone really, really viral. And let's be honest, we now have Paul Adkins as the new SEC chief, who is taking a more crypto-friendly approach since he was appointed by Trump. And of course, he wants to push crypto. Check out the reaction video from Friday if you haven't already. You can find the link up here. If you want to check it out, feel free to watch it at the end of this video. See what's going on there, what Trump did with his money. He doubled it within a year, mainly through crypto. Yeah, and it actually goes even further. We'll get to that in a moment. And first of all, this is extremely positive because it will drive altcoins and also attract institutional interest to altcoins through new ETFs, since they can mainly invest in ETFs. It's much easier for them than buying the coins themselves and then storing them on a hardware wallet like Tangent Ledger and so on. So they'd rather go for an ETF, let someone else handle it, pay a few fees, and that's it. And that could really push cryptocurrencies, or at least those included in the ETF, or even the market in general, because many will start asking what else is out there and what could be next. And then people will look around and think, maybe I should invest beforehand, before an ETF comes out. If, for example, a Solana or XRP ETF comes out, those are the most likely, since they're at the top of the list of those still pending approval, simply because they're the most popular. When an ETF like that launches, a lot of people would definitely start looking around like, oh, what else is on that list? Oh, Cardano, Avalanche, for example. Then you could already invest in those, because if institutional money starts flowing in through the ETFs, the price could keep rising. And if I invest now, I can lock in some profits ahead of time, or at least plan for those gains. Whether those actually come to pass is another matter. So we can be very curious, and I think this will further fuel the bull run. Remember, my theory is and remains that we will experience the 4-year cycle once again, namely 2017, 2021, 2025. I'm quite convinced of that. But we still have to go through a valley. That's very important. And if we look at the statistics, these are just statistics. It doesn't mean it will happen with 100% certainty, but the statistics indicate that September is not necessarily a good month. We can see that here, namely, if we look at this list for Bitcoin, and that's what has been traded the most so far, if we go through it, we see that August, with this current August 2025, has slipped into the negative. That's very interesting. That's absolutely interesting. Because actually, we've always had a good August, even though we usually talk about a summer slump during these months, we've actually still had positive numbers overall here. So it's still interesting, but of course, that's due to some really strong months like these. Look, 157%, or here's something with 60 and almost 60%. Of course, these are months that really drive the whole thing up. Then we'll still find some more in the list here with 80, then another 40, and so on. That, of course, pushes the whole thing upward. So even if we have red numbers here, they're not extremely high. And if you balance it out, they're still relatively positive. But ahead of us lies September, dear friends. It's still green for now, and it was green the last 2 years as well. But now, just take a look at the overall picture. Overall, September is the worst month of the entire year. It sounds crazy, but that's how it is. Just look at the numbers. Here, plus 9%, plus 14, plus 10, plus 33, almost plus 20, plus 7, plus 8, minus 0.64 with this year's August. That's over now. Then we have 1548, and which one stands out? September, with an average of minus 5 in September. Although the stock market saying goes, sell in May and go away, but remember, come back in September, September is actually still a good month for the weather. So people might say, I'll go on vacation then. Especially if you're not tied to school holidays, you might go on vacation in August and September, maybe even in October, but then the autumn holidays start getting in the way again. And many people avoid vacationing during school holidays because they don't want noisy children in the hotel. That's why, to be honest, this stock market saying does exist, but it doesn't specify early September or mid-September, it just says September. And if people only come back at the end of September, and September was bad before that, and then at the end of September, people come back and say, oh, the prices are good, Bitcoin has dropped below 100,000, for example, then I could buy now, and suddenly everything goes up again, and we say, ha, see, summer's over, and in September, things go up again. Yeah, but nobody noticed the whole of September when things were going down before that. But this list here shows it all quite well again. It's an average decent figure with 5%. Yeah, we have to be honest, there was only one really big month, both positive and negative, namely here, 44, and 13. And of course, that dragged the statistics down, but there were also months with 35 and others with 36, which were extremely good months as well, because those are still ahead of us. October, November, December are the big months, and those could also be the big months in the bourbon. In 2021, though, it didn't last or extend all the way to the end of the year, because back then it was already over in October. But in 2017, it stretched out over the whole year, and it really took off only in January. In 2018, that's when things started to go downhill. We can be very curious, since we already had a very good November last year, so we can be very curious to see how things will continue and whether this theory holds up. Bitcoin right now, as we can see, is below 110,000. So the whole situation remains very, very exciting. If you're now asking yourself, what should I actually do next week? If you'd like to talk about crypto and connect with people, maybe even meet Stefan from Crypto, then check out the event conference. The whole thing takes place on the 3rd and 4th of September in Dortmund at Signal Iduna Park, which is the BVB stadium. It's a really cool event. There's a stadium tour. I think it says it's only for VIPs, but last year they actually did it for everyone. I'm really curious because there aren't actually that many VIPs compared to the number of regular visitors. So I strongly assume that we'll all be able to do it together. Cool event, lots of speakers, lots of crypto content creators. So for me, it's kind of like a family reunion when I see them all. And of course, there are exciting talks, exciting projects, but also some very interesting projects from the regular business world, so to speak. Of course, we're here again as well. If we scroll down a bit here, at some point, the Crypto logo will appear. There it is already. There's the Crypto logo and many others as well. There are a lot of big projects here, mainly many exchanges. That was very interesting. Last year, the exchanges were still very reserved about this topic. It's really cool that this year, so many exchanges and basically all hardware wallets are here. Try to find one that's not included. Ledger, Tangent, OneKey, Trezor. So there are very few that aren't here, and you'll find a lot more in the list below. The list is very long with everything that's included here, so this event is really worth it. If you're thinking, no, hang on, that's too much for me at the stadium and the ticket also costs a bit, then here's a tip. With the code CryptoUL20, I think that's the code. Take a look at CryptoUL. Come under events, you'll find another code there. I think it's CryptoUL20, and that gives you a 20% discount on the tickets. As I said, the tickets do cost a bit, yes. With the VIP ticket, you even get a free Trezor included. I've already said that almost makes it worth it. There's another 20% discount. You can still do something with CryptoUL20, and if you say, no, that's way too much for me. Maybe you just want to meet a few content creators, experience a bit, and meet some people from the crypto scene. Then check out CryptoCon. It's happening on Thursday, September 3rd from 4 p.m. until, I think, open end, if I'm correctly informed. There are a lot of content creators there. Just look at all the content creators who will be there. You'll also see some familiar faces there, like the ones you see in this video. In any case, you'll experience a lot there. And get this, a ticket only costs €5. And those €5 aren't just gone. You get a drink or a bratwurst or something else for it. So it's really worth being there. For me, as I said, it's like a family reunion because I know a lot of people there since I've been involved in this scene for a long time. And here you can give out a community award. Just cast your vote. Who would you like to vote for here? For example, I say, look, go ahead and vote for Tessa. Go ahead and vote for Tessa. I have successfully cast a vote for Tessa just as an example. Of course, I don't want to vote for myself, but you could, for example, choose Crypto or anyone else who's on the list here. Community award, do I need it? I don't know, but you take what you can get. Today, on September 1st, one cryptocurrency is especially in the spotlight, and that's WLFI. WLFI. I did a reaction video about it on Friday. A shocking project. A lot of people are bullish. And what happens with this cryptocurrency from Donald Trump, or rather mainly from Eric and Donald Trump Jr.? Yeah, we can see it in the price, and that's how it often goes. Overhyped, overbought. A lot of people who were able to invest early, mainly, as we've seen, mainly exchanges and so on. It's all in the reaction video. Also Ripple, who invested early here buying spots and photos with Donald Trump, but it backfired because they're no longer welcome in the White House, even though they invested $5 million in this project. The WLFI token is now live. It's on a lot of exchanges. You might have noticed it was immediately listed on a whole bunch of exchanges. Where is most of the trading volume? I've already seen Binance. Where else do we have? Upbit is also included. Uniswap with 5%, and here another 8% on OKX. Yeah, and otherwise mostly smaller percentages. So as you can see, once again, everything is mainly happening on Binance. WLFI USDT, and that's the big question. Will the whole thing be a success? We can be very curious, but as we can already see from the price, it's exactly what was to be expected. The people who maybe got access to the tokens earlier, there were, I think, giveaways and who knows what else. Anyway, there were ways to get in early. Of course, they're dumping the whole thing now. I got a token for free. It's only worth 20 cents, but whatever, just get rid of it. The main thing is I got money. How things will continue from here, we can be very curious. He actually financed his campaign mainly or largely with it. By the way, it still says white paper here. He himself calls it the gold paper. Yes, it's very, very interesting. Another group that was very, very interesting and has also dominated the past few weeks. Why have we actually been talking about Bitcoin when one company has just kept going up? So Ether has just kept rising. We can also see that in the Bitcoin dominance, which has gone down a bit. In return, the Ethereum dominance, or is it called Ethereum dominance? Do you say that? Or this gap between Ethereum and Bitcoin has increased a bit here. So we've seen more Ethereum in terms of price. No question, the Ethereum price has really gone up here. But right now, in the last 3 days, it's been neither up nor down, just moving sideways a bit. But you can really tell that Wall Street is currently going through everything we already experienced back in 2016, 2017. Oh, there's a new cryptocurrency that does smart contracts. Oh, it's alongside Bitcoin and they're doing something different. They're the world computer. Oh, they're interesting. That was the phase that was really, really exciting when a lot of people first discovered Ethereum and said, this is something exciting, something new, something great. And Ethereum was able to benefit from this tremendously. And now it feels exactly the same. Additionally, there are, of course, incentives from staking, like a yield on the ETF, and that's naturally very, very interesting. And there are some truly interesting and significant statements here from Ethereum co-founder Joseph Lubin, who thoughtfully says that Ethereum will dramatically increase 100-fold when Wall Street fully adopts its innovative staking and decentralized finance DeFi structures, and he confidently predicts that Ether will eventually replace Bitcoin as the primary global monetary base. In other words, monetary theory or monetary base, that it will replace it as the monetary foundation in the form of cryptocurrencies. So he assumes that Ethereum, or rather ETH, will be more interesting for Wall Street or institutional investors than Bitcoin. That's an interesting statement. Everyone can think what they want about that. You can write in the comments what you think about it, whether you see it the same way. Personally, I am very, very curious because I believe that a lot is still going to happen here. With staking and an additional yield on the ETFs, essentially a dividend, I can easily imagine that many people will find this ETF more exciting than Bitcoin. That's why something is still going to happen here. But whether Ethereum or ETH will ever overtake BTC, I don't think so. But we can be curious to see how much both will rise in comparison or in relation to each other. That Bitcoin could still rise by, let's say, 50% to 160, 170,000 is absolutely within the realm of possibility. That Ethereum could potentially double or even triple, of course, is truly quite hard to definitively say at this moment. He even says here 100-fold, so 100 times. Just think about that. 100 times from now. That would be a current price with 3 more zeros, $400,000 for Ether. Can you imagine that? That's a bold statement. It's a bold claim, but so far it hasn't had any effect on the price. Because right now it's not doing anything at all, but compared to Bitcoin, which is currently dropping, it's just waiting. ETH is just waiting here. So with that in mind, leave a comment below the video about what you think of all the topics we covered here. And are you going to the conference? Are you excited about it? Should I bring some giveaways? Should I bring some pens, notepads? What else do we have? Bottle openers, socks? We have socks. Should I bring all that stuff with me? Let me know in the comments who I might run into there. Remember to follow everything on Instagram. There will also be a few YouTube videos or pictures here, but mainly probably. Or on X, I'll post a few pictures there too, but mainly on Instagram, CryptoYule on Instagram in the stories. Watch out, unfortunately, there are 2 or 3 accounts. Well, it's a bit tricky, but of course you'll find the links here in our link tree or in the video descriptions. There's a section for social media somewhere for that. With that said, goodbye for now and see you in the next video.